Hi everyone and welcome to EYFS and me. I'm Stacey Mann, the Early Years and Childcare Subject Specialist here at NCFE Cash. Today I'm going to be taking you through the new EYFS framework and how that will impact on your practice. As I said, I'm Stacey Mann and I have been working in the sector for the last 21 years. And so I've seen lots of changes along the way and are really here to reassure you and give you confidence in your own practice. So today's intentions are to define the main changes of the EYFS reforms 2021, to reflect on the impact that the changes will have on our own practice, and we'll also share some ideas and suggestions of how this might be implemented. There are two main justifications that the EYFS framework has changed. That is number one, to improve outcomes at age 5, particularly in early language and literacy, and also to reduce workload such as unnecessary paperwork, so you can spend more time with the children in your care. This is to allow teachers, practitioners to spend more time interacting and getting to know the children, rather than time taken away assessing, gathering evidence, taking pictures and writing up observations. The key changes are as follows. Revisions to the early learning goals. There are still 17 early learning goals, but they're only to be used for the assessment at the end of reception year and to indicate readiness for year 1. There are changes to the assessment and moderation for the early years foundation stage profile. This means that the local authority will no longer be doing moderating in this way. There's no longer a requirement to report against the exceeding level, only required to judge whether a child is meeting the level of development expected at the end of the early years foundation stage or not yet reaching that level. There's also a proposed change to the safeguarding and welfare requirements, and that's to promote good oral health, which we will discuss. There's a huge emphasis on reducing paperwork for practitioners to allow more time to interact with the children. Without having to gather and keep reams of proof to back up judgments, the practitioner's understanding of the child is considered sufficient evidence. So get to know those children. And finally, there's an aim to improve outcomes in language and literacy for all children. Communication and language has been placed centrally in the new framework, and there's a big focus on using and acquiring new vocabulary. In order to implement the EYFS educational programmes, we need to provide a curriculum that leaders build on to decide what they intend children to learn and develop. Leaders and practitioners decide how to implement the curriculum so that children make progress in the 7 areas of learning. Leaders and practitioners evaluate the impact of the curriculum by checking what children know and can do. And I think that's a really important part of this particular slide. Let's focus on what the children can do. The 7 areas of learning remain the same. However, the early learning goals, referred to throughout this document as the ELGs, have changed. And this has been to ensure that they are clearer and easier to make judgments against. The ELGs are to be looked at the end of reception. Tracking and assessment may therefore feel a little bit different to what it has before. While there is no requirement to monitor and assess before the end of the reception year, most practitioners do so and must now rely more so on their own skills to track, assess and implement next steps as required. Next steps are usually taken in the moment or in reception, small intervention classes. This is where Development Matters is a useful guide and can be there to support practitioners in decision making. It should not, however, and should never have been used as a tick list. The new Development Matters, Development Matters is non-statutory, as it always has been. It's shorter. It's about 2/3 of the length of the previous version to allow for more freedom to develop the right broad curriculum for the children you work with. The age bands have been simplified to avoid tracking activities that do not support child development. And as you can see here on your screen, it's very much about formative assessment. Formative assessment is assessment to inform planning. Formative evaluation must be based on observations of children in motion, both in self-directed play and planned events, in order to prepare effectively. This is at the core of a successful early childhood education and is often referred to as evaluation for learning. And again, this can be done in the moment. It doesn't have to be reams of paperwork. Within the oral health development, it's clarified that this change relates to teaching children about healthy eating habits and dental hygiene. It's not a requirement to carry out supervised toothbrushing. Practitioners will not be required to assess children's oral health. It's something that we just need to be aware of and something that we need to be conscious of when planning the children's meals and when we're planning for their day. There's more room for professional judgment within your Development Matters guidance. You can make more judgments based on your knowledge and experience instead of using the early learning goals or age bands in the framework to track children's progress. And you will see that there now are 3 age ranges instead of 6. So birth to 3, 3 and 4-year-olds, and children in reception. The free downloadable book that goes alongside Development Matters, Early Years Policy into Practice by Dr. Julian Grenier is also very useful. One of the key messages in the book lies around the 7 features of effective practice. These include the best for every child, high quality care, the curriculum, what we want children to learn, pedagogy, helping children to learn, assessment, self-regulation and executive function, and partnership with parents. All so important in our everyday practice and underpins everything that we do in early years. Okay, and what that really reiterates for us is this can-do approach. What can the children do? And also thinking about the 4 principles of the EYFS, of the Early Years Foundation stage, that we've still got the same 4: enabling environments, positive relationships, and unique child, just 3 of those, and really, really important as the overarching aims of everything that we're doing. What we have got this time around is birth to 5 matters. So we have a bit of choice this time around. Birth to 5 Matters has been developed by the Early Years Coalition, composed by 16 early years sector organisations. The members came together to create guidance to support the sector, and the members have pulled together their expertise whilst working closely with the practitioners who actually implement the frameworks to ensure that it is fit for purpose. The guidance is comprehensive and can be used in conjunction with Development Matters or as standalone. It's important to remember that both Development Matters and Birth to 5 Matters are non-statutory, and each setting can ensure that their curriculum reflects their pedagogy and that the child is always at the centre of that approach. The key points from Birth to 5 Matters is formative assessment being an integral part of teaching young children, seeing where they are now and where you want them to be and how you're going to support them to get there. Practice starts with the child and grows in partnership. And that key word there is partnership. You're in partnership with the child, but also with the family of that child and any other professionals working with that child. A responsive pedagogy is needed to recognise what children know, understand and can do. Children and adults construct the curriculum together. So really thinking about where that child is and how you are going to support that child with their interests, with what they would like to do, and let them have some ownership of their own learning. Observation, assessment and planning is part of professional practice. Summative assessment involves stepping back to gain an overview of children's development and progress. And then as we go on, it really talks about a holistic view of child development and learning, which we are going to come on to in our next series of webinars. Here are some really useful links for you to have a look at yourselves, share with your teams, and revisit when you need to. And remember, it's all about you. By this, we mean the pedagogy that you adopt, the connections you make with the children and families, and the quality that you bring to the children's development. All of those things lie with you. It's important to keep up to date with changes and equally to equip yourself with ideas, knowledge, and a sound understanding. But ultimately, your passion and enthusiasm within the sector will work towards the outcomes for the children. So get to know the children in your care, be able to talk about them to anybody that asks about where they are in their stages of development and what they like to do, what they're fantastic at, what is unique to them. You must have an excellent understanding of child development, and it's something that needs to be revisited so that you're not solely depending on the Birth to Five Matters framework or the Development Matters framework. You're not looking at those to just use as a tick list because your understanding of child development is so high. Also, quality interactions. We all are being given the opportunity to do less paperwork so we can spend more time with the children. And that is really important and something that we need to constantly come back to. Our sustained shared thinking with the children, our conversations that we have with the children, and most importantly, our active listening. Our pedagogy as a team, what we decide is our ethos within that setting that we're working in, is something that needs to be discussed regularly. It must be child centred. It must work for your children, the children in your care, in your setting. Communication and collaboration will be key to all of those things. So trust yourself and your expertise. You know the children in your care, you know the community, and you know the families that you are working with. Use that to form part of your pedagogy. Thank you for listening to today's webinar. I'm Stacey Mann, the Early Years and Childcare Subject Specialist here at NCFE CASH. Thank you.